these three movies, so Winter Soldier and the next two movies, have 6 total points difference between them. Out of 29 movies, they have 6 total points in difference between them. So it's almost identical where these movies are ranked. And so it really is kind of interesting where they're just so close. So I guess we'll get into number 4. Number 4, Civil War. It is at 172 total points, so 2 more points than Winter Soldier. 5.93 is the average. And again, it's another Captain America movie. Civil War, as I said. Here's the thing about Civil War, and this is the big criticism that Civil War got, was that there were no real stakes, right? The stakes weren't real. It was like, okay, they fought, but they didn't really fight, right? And Tony says it to Peter during Homecoming, where he's like, I took on Captain America, like, and he's like, if Cap wanted to put you down, he would put you down, right? Like, they were pulling their punches, they were, but what happens from this movie changes everything. It changes the course of everything, right? It separates them. Now, maybe if they were together from the beginning, they could have defeated Thanos the first time, but they weren't, so they didn't defeat Thanos, right? So there's all these different kind of things that are going on that come from this movie, and I do think that this is really interesting. And also, you also got to remember, like, now Sharon and stuff that was on the run after Winter Soldier, but even still, like Civil War, they're involved. Oh, no, that's not true. Sharon was on the run after Civil War, correct? So this is where, like, now people are on the run. Now things start changing, and even as we move forward, you're seeing repercussions from this movie still happening right now, right? So I think as we've gone through time, this has become a more important movie, with kind of bigger stakes.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, Civil War to me is almost like Infinity War. Infinity War is really 3 movies, right? It's Civil War, and then it's Infinity War Part 1 and 2, because of how much Civil War. And I think I have it ranked number 1 or 2 on my list, but it's so impactful to, the events that happen afterwards, and while, the fact that that's the case, while also being like such a great movie on its own, with a great introduction to Black Panther, we get a great introduction to Spider-Man, in my opinion, the best villain in the entire MCU, in Zemo. Like, there's just so many great aspects and threads to Civil War, and it really does kind of set off like everything that happens, and I think that's what makes it probably my favorite MCU movie, more than just like the action and all the other things I just mentioned.
Yeah, 2 things for me are the introduction of Spider-Man and Black Panther, which certainly sets it apart. Also, there's the human element to it, right? There's the realistic element to it as well, that we see in today's world. Up until this point, there has, clearly been, just this unified thing that the Avengers are this just perfect thing. They're the perfect addition to the world to make it safe, so on and so forth. And then Ultron comes over and just absolutely shuffles everything up, just, kind of, blurs what's good and bad. And it's the ramifications of that we see in that, views aren't shared by anybody. Even though people have a common goal in place, their reasons for wanting to achieve that goal are completely different. Their methods are completely different. Their ways of thinking the right way to do it in a completely wrong way are completely different. And that's real life setup. That's real life, things that we see on a daily, every day basically. And that's where Civil War kind of hits you as well. Is just like, this is a real life dilemmas that they're dealing with. And that is, it kind of had a human element to it. So that's 2 reasons why I think it's so highly rated. Plus, it's just a damn good movie. And it's also really the first one that kind of expands the ability of, continuing to increase the number of heroes you have in the same movie and to hit the nail on the head, especially introduced.
Yeah, agreed. And the other part of it too that I didn't mention was, this really, to me, shows Cap's resolve, right? He's going to do the right thing no matter what. It doesn't matter who tells him what the right thing to do is not or not. It doesn't matter. Like, he doesn't listen to a government. He doesn't listen to anyone else. Like, he's going to follow his principles, and what he thinks is the right thing to do is what he's going to do, right? And I think that, obviously he breaks the Sokovia Accords and has zero regard for anybody when he feels like he needs to do the right thing. And so of course that's what ends up separating them. But that fight scene at the end between the three of them is so good, and that's one of those. It's fantastic. So, all right, anyways, let's move on to number 5. This one at 176 total points. So again, Winter Soldier had 170 total, Civil War had 172 total, and this one, number 5, has 176 total. So you're talking about 6 total points between 29 movies. 29 rankings, I'm sorry. 6 total points separate 3 and 5. And at number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, Volume 1. This movie is just, from beginning to end, absolutely phenomenal. Just, it's number 2 on my list. I think it's, outside of Infinity War, my favorite movie. It's just perfect. Like, I just love it so much. It's so well done. All of the characters are great. The storyline is fantastic. How they all kind of come together and fighting each other, and it's just, this is one of those. This is where, to me, the MCU really turned, because people were like, okay, like, they do all these great things, and then this got announced, and everyone's like, what the hell is this? Who are these guys? No one had ever heard of these guys. Even like the comic book people were like, Guardians of the Galaxy? Are you kidding me? Like, they're gonna do a movie on this? And then they knocked it out of the park, and everyone was like, oh my god, like, I guess they're just gonna do everything good. And then they've continued to do everything good, but this movie is just unbelievable, and again, one of my favorites.
And it did so well introducing characters that not a lot of people knew about. Like, I knew the guard. Like, and I'll be honest, my upbringing was not through comics like it was for several diehards. My introduction and reading of comics has come from the past. 13 years since Iron Man has been enjoyed. So I knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were when they came out, from having read comics. From 2011, 12, all that different stuff. But these are not common characters. They're not on the level of mainstream everyday knowledge that casual to diehard fans know. And they casted the character so well, and it was brought to life so well. And James Gunn just did an absolute, every aspect of it, from the soundtrack to the comedy to the coming of age for several of the characters. Everybody had their own unique backstory, but they just so perfectly gelled. It was very well done. Wasn't too much a fan of the ending, though I applaud it for being original. I wanted more of a. I didn't like how they kind of made Ronan. Like, you had this buildup that he was all powerful, so on and so forth, how he was talking to Thanos, and then he got killed during the dance off. I wasn't the biggest fan of that, but I do applaud the fact that it certainly was the perfect ending in its own way to a movie that was its own.
I will say though, Max, I will say though, it is one of the best callbacks in MCU history when during Infinity War, when they meet up with Iron Man and Drax is like, tell him about the dance off to save the universe. It's just like, it's so stupid, but it's amazing. So for that moment, for that alone, I'll go with the dance off.
Yeah, Guardians is just like, yeah, no, it's good. It's one of those ones. It also took me a while to go ahead and see it because it was so abstract, and I was like, I don't really know about this. Like, do I really need to see this movie? But everyone raved about it. The soundtrack was great. The casting was great. I think Guardians, even if you just watched like I like the standalone value. Like, if we were just watching the Guardians movies and nothing else MCU, like, you would enjoy it and you'd be able to understand and follow the thread. So, yeah, Guardians was definitely a great addition to the whole picture of the MCU.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's go to number 6. Number 6 at 196 overall, 196 total points, 6.76 average, and that is Thor Ragnarok. Another one where, like, Thor was a character that people kind of hated. I mean, the first two movies stunk. I mean, the second one was awful, and the first one was eh. And so, everyone was kind of like, okay, like the Shakespearean guy, he's like not super likable, and like Hemsworth is like looks good and stuff, but it's like I don't know. And then Thor Ragnarok comes along, and you're like, oh my god, like they totally changed the character. They started off with that awesome scene, with him fighting the that friggin' huge monster, which was awesome. But then they also have that little play, and that play, and Taika Waititi's talked about it, how that play was like a symbol of them killing off like the old Shakespearean Thor, and going in a completely different direction. And it was awesome with Sam Neill and Matt Damon, both in that little play there. So, anyway, Thor Ragnarok, great movie, number 6 on the list.
Well, and I think that a couple of other things that throw it out there. One of the reasons why I loved it is because of the fact that I am a huge, huge mythology buff. Like I love mythology. That's part of what brings me to the comics. And Norse mythology probably has had, besides Greek, but Norse is a source of much of some of the greatest things out there. Lord of the Rings, so on and so forth. When it comes to mythology, and you were introduced to so many versions of it. I mean, Kate Blanchett as Hela was awesome. Frenier was in there. Surtur is in there. Those are big, iconic mythology figures that are going to draw you to a crowd, but they're also mythological, comic book, villains as well. So if you're wanting to talk about one of the movies that really did well hitting on its layers of villains, Thor Ragnarok did incredible. And of course, also you continue to see the development of Loki from being, bad to an anti-hero as well. So, just a great ensemble of characters, but also really love the rogue gallery of villains that it.
All right, let's go on to the next one. Number 7. Unless you want to add something, Max, or
My
we
bad,
want to
my
move on.
bad. Sorry about
No,
that.
it's good. No worries.
Yeah. So yeah. Right. I mean, everything Sean said. I love. I'm a big mythology person too. I love the characterization and the introduction of Valkyrie. I thought that was awesome. I thought Valkyrie before Ragnarok and before I played the God of War games, the newer ones. I didn't realize. I even just in my like nerding out of Greek mythology and Valkyrie is more like Norse mythology, and I hadn't gone that deep of it, but like just I didn't know that they were like great female warriors in mythology. I knew about Amazons, of course, but that's different. But like Valkyrie, I love how they kind of brought her down to earth and characterized that. And then I love the Hulk. Hulk's one of my favorites. So Ragnarok's a high on my list.
All right, we're in agreement. Love it. All right, number 7. This one had 207 total points with an average of 7.14. Black Panther. And here's the thing about Black Panther, right? A lot of people had it super high. Some people had it a little bit lower, but a lot of people had it super, super high. And the thing about Black Panther is this. I think you can't talk about the movie Black Panther without talking about the cultural significance of the movie Black Panther. Like you just can't do that. Now, of course, Blade had come out, right, and that was a black superhero movie, but like Black Panther's was a whole nother level, right? And this is a situation where like basically the entire cast, is black, and it was like it was amazing to see, right? And it was awesome to see little kids running around in there, like it was just dope. Like that was cool. And so the thing is like you can't talk about this movie without bringing that stuff up, right? I think as a movie, it's still a very good movie. I think that might bring it a tick higher. I actually have it just outside my top 10. But like as a movie, I would probably rank it there. But when you talk about cultural significance and like the significance of the superhero genre and what we're doing, and of course now with Chadwick having now passed away, like this is now a cultural significant movie where it's like if you're watching superhero movies, you need to watch this movie. If you don't like superhero movies, you probably should still watch this movie. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it kind of transcends the superhero genre, I would say.
I don't necessarily know if I will call him the best villain. but the best portrayal